Welcome back. I'm your host, Marco D'Angelo, and I'm joined by Stephen Nover. We're going to take a look at baseball. We're 2 months into the season. We're taping this on June 1st. And Stephen, we're going to look in this segment. We're going to do two videos, this one and a second video. The second video, we're going to look at the disappointments. But what we're going to talk about in this video is some of the surprises that we've had in Major League Baseball through the first 2 months of the season. And more importantly, as bettors, do we continue to ride these teams? Are they for real, or are they overrated, and is the value actually going to be in fading them? I'm going to run the top 7 money earners for 2011 baseball so far. And this is based on if you just flat bet them every game for $100. The most money to be made would have been with the Cleveland Indians. At number 1, clearly, nobody expected this from the Cleveland Indians. Your thoughts, we'll look at them first.
I'll throw this out. How about for MVP at this stage, Asdrubal Cabrera? He's got to be the best shortstop in the American League right now.
Cleveland right now, I mean, first of all, at home, they're lights out. 19-6 at home. This team is doing it with hitting. As you said, they're playing some good defense. They're getting surprisingly good pitching from most of their starters. Now they've had some games here recently that haven't been so good, and they've been getting in
which could be very telling. And you, I think, hit the right word. Surprisingly good pitching. Now these guys, I think they've been overachieving their pitchers. They're not that good, and I think this is the time to be playing against them.
Where the value may be coming into play, though, with them is that hitting-wise, I think this team's for real. I think they can score runs, and if they continue to score runs and don't have the pitching that they were enjoying, we could see a lot of overs. One team that's not on the top list for money earners overall for the season, but if you were playing just overs, there's one team in Major League Baseball this year that has been just incredible. Just blindly play overs and you're sitting pretty. That's the New York Mets. Their games have been just crazy with the overs. 32-19. On the over with the Mets, clearly one of the biggest disparities on over-unders, and the pitching staff doesn't look like it's going to shore up anytime soon.
Well, you're hurting when Mike Pelfrey's your number 1 starter. That's not good.
And you got what's the guy Gee in their lineup?
He's actually pitched pretty good. Dylan Gee.
Yeah, but again, when you've got but he's one of those guys that. First time around the league.
Right.
I've always been a big proponent that, and that's something to look at with some of these teams that have young pitching staffs. Last year was a case, the San Diego Padres had that young pitching staff, and they played well all year. But, pitchers are always going to have the advantage first time around the league. It's what they start doing when you're facing teams for the second and third time, and, you don't have that mystery factor. We'll see what happens. Surprise number 2, I don't know you could really call this one a surprise because last year I think they underachieved. A lot of people expected more out of the Florida Marlins last year, and they came up short. This year they've got a record of 31-22. If you've blindly bet them all during the season, you'd be up over $900 on $100 bets. Where they've played extremely well has been the road. They've got one of the better road records, 17-10 on the road this year. They're a couple games over 500 at home. What do you make of the Florida Marlins?
Well, with Florida, this is what you're getting. You're going to have to really sit through a tough one. It's going to be a squirmy night. They're going to make errors. They're going to make mental blunders, but they are a very talented team. I like Florida a lot, and they usually do well on the road. I like their pitching staff. I think they have a number of underrated pitchers. Anibal Sanchez immediately coming to mind. They have some really outstanding young talent that people don't maybe immediately think of. Logan Morrison, Gabby Sanchez, Mike Stanton's a future superstar. And they've achieved this record, Marco, with Hanley Ramirez in the tank all year. He's having a terrible year. But look, could you imagine having that record considering the year Ramirez has had?
They're a surprise, that's for sure. Do you think they can continue this for the whole season?
Well, I don't think they're going to win that division, but I think they are for real. I think those young players who I talked about, they are for real. They're good players. They have good pitching. It's just kind of you can maybe usually get the money, which has been the case through the first, third of the season, but they make you squirm because they do stupid things,
They do. And again, why they make so much money, why they're on the ledger so well for the profit for the season is that road record, because not only do they have a winning record on the road, all you got to do is be 500 on the road, and generally you're going to be making money as a bettor because you're going to be a dog on most of the games. When you've got a winning record on the road, you're going to make a lot of money if you're following a team. So a lot of value there. The next team I'm going to bring up value-wise, this one I got to admit, this is the biggest surprise to me, even more so than the Cleveland Indians, because going into this season, I actually thought that this was one of the 10 worst teams in baseball this year, and they're playing incredibly well right now, and that's Arizona. I did not expect this from Arizona. They are the third best moneymaker this year through 2 months. So what's your take there?
Well, I wish I could say I told you so, but I can't. I agree with you. I'm just blown away by Arizona. I thought they'd be terrible. I knew they had shored up their bullpen with Putz. Putz seems to not blow any saves. He's kind of, that was a huge weakness for Arizona last year. Putz has shored up that weakness in the closer position. But I look at Arizona's roster, and I see these young pitchers pitching well, and I just don't think, their minor league stats is, what I've heard from them about in their minor league performances, just didn't seem that great, but they seem to do well in the majors. And I look at how weak they are in the corners, and I got to think there's a correction, because I don't think Arizona's this good, nearly this good.
I don't think they're this good. I can't help it. I got to do it. How can you be excited when the game's on the line and the manager picks up the phone? Bring me Putz. I mean, I can't put my hands in the hands of a Putz.
Yeah, I heard that so much, because there's a lot of these big fantasy baseball drafts held in Las Vegas, and I would be a facilitator for that or an auctioneer. And I can't tell you, Marco, every time Putz was drafted, whoever took him, it was like an obligatory thing. They had to make some comment like, I'm going to be a Putz, but I'll take J.J. Putz, The guy's a great closer. He's had injuries the last couple of years.
He's getting the job done right now. As we speak, they're in the middle of their best stretch of the season. We're taping on June 1st, so we'll see if Arizona can do it. Number 4 is no surprise. It's the Philadelphia Phillies. What's really a surprise is that they're showing such a profit, because obviously with all the hoopla coming into this season with that rotation, they're going to be a big favorite almost, every night. So they're laying a lot of wood, and to overcome that amount of juice, obviously they're 13 games over 500, but if you're laying 180, 190, 200 a lot, you've got to be a 67% team to overcome that, and they are the 4th best team profit-wise, in baseball. And so
the problem with the Phillies is you can't lay them. Their prices are too high. I think the way to attack the Phillies, and of course they're for real, they may be the best team in baseball, but the way to attack them, at least I've had some success with it, is fading Roy Halladay on the run line, taking that plus 1.5 the other way. And if you go back, I believe, and this is just off the top of my head, the Phillies are something like 2-7 minus 1.5 runs in the last 9 times Holladay's pitched.
It's funny sometimes how you can get one pitcher, and it's funny because the guy that I'm going to bring up is actually a teammate of Holladay's now this year, Roy Oswalt. If you remember him in Houston, some pitchers just don't get run support for whatever reason, and they pitch their guts out every night, and it seems like they're always involved in a 3-2 game, and so it's a good point to bring out on him. 5th place team we're really not going to talk that much about, because they're basically where they've been every year, St. Louis. They're in the Central. I want to move to the 6th and 7th place teams, because I think there's really 2 surprises here that they're making money. And that's the Pittsburgh Pirates, not trying to get a plug in for my former hometown, and Seattle. Here's 2 teams that I don't think anybody thought would be profitable at this stage of the season. Now, Pittsburgh, they're 3 games under 500. And let me tell you, from somebody in Pittsburgh, that's exciting. To be, for the calendar to hit June and us to be 3 games within 500, that's a playoff season, let me tell you. They're getting it done, and they're doing it on the road. Pittsburgh, surprisingly, they're 16 and 14 on the road. And when you think a team that's been a doormat as much as the Pirates have been in baseball for the last 2 decades, I mean, we're talking, this has been a team that hasn't won forever. To be over 500 on the road, that's going to make you a lot of money following this team. And somebody that does follow this team, I can tell you, they're not scoring a lot of runs, but they are getting good starting pitching. And we all know good starting pitching is going to keep you in ball games.
Yeah, they Hanrahan, their closer, is like he's among the saves leaders. He's having a surprising great year. They have got a good manager, Clint Hurdle. He's one of the better managers in baseball, but I can't see Pittsburgh maintaining this kind of pace. For them, they usually fade as the season gets going. Maybe Hurdle can prevent that, but their left side of their infield is very weak. They still haven't really come up with a third baseman, and They may exceed their win total, but they're still a really bad team. But
they're not a great team, but the thing is, with a team like this, you can pick your spots. And if this team just even floats with 500, you're going to make money with this team because they're going to be a dog most nights.
Yeah, well, some of these pitchers, like, let's just throw out Jeff Karsten. Somebody says, oh, that guy's the worst pitcher in baseball. No, he's not. Yeah. Hey, he's certainly no all-star, but he's not bad. And for the kind of price you get, usually get some value with their players.
Pittsburgh really doesn't have anybody that's been getting lit up on a regular basis. I mean,
they got rid of Zach Duke, so
well, he finally got his first start for Arizona. He pitched very well after
the fade at that point.
The situation being that the Pirates, if the pitching holds up, they're going to be in some ball games. They're not a great defensive club, but they're not beating themselves. They're not making stupid errors. So.
They're well managed.
That's, I think they're, right now, if you're looking for value, there's still value in that team because there's such a stigma with them that, people just don't believe. So, you don't have to be, you can be less than 500, and if you're an underdog all the time, you can turn a profit.
They have one of the most underrated players in baseball. This guy was going in the second round of mixed league fantasy drafts, Andrew McCutchen. And he's not having a great year so far. He's starting to come on. But he's a great young player.
Pittsburgh has a history of getting great young players, and then they go bye-bye.
Yeah.
So, but the ownership has vowed they're not going to go that route. They've been taking too much heat for too long, and they're going to vow to keep the players there. And the other team, Seattle, quickly, we'll wrap up this segment with the teams that are overachieving. Seattle, I mean, they're on a nice win streak. They're coming off a weekend series, big series against the Yankees. They held their own, and King Felix is King Felix. What concerns me, and this is going to be something to watch, his last 2 starts, they've really run up his pitch count. And, this is your superstar. This is your stud. You don't want to, you need him around all the way into September. And I think they got to be careful if they keep sending him out because I just don't think they got any faith in the bullpen.
Yeah, and the hitting is so weak with Seattle. Some of the back-end pitching starting rotation has been a surprise. I don't know how long that can keep up. King Felix is King Felix, but let's see, as you say, Marco, if these high pitch counts, affect him. And if you take him, you're probably going to be laying a price. I like to take him those rare times when he's a dog, but it's so gut-wrenching, you're looking at a 2-1 game, They just don't score, the Mariners. It's frustrating.
I couldn't agree with you more. Well, those are the teams that have been overachieving. We think there's some value with these teams and some plays to, pick your spots with. Watch as the season goes on. We'll be back throughout, updating this and teams that are on the rise and on the fall. We're going to come back and look at the teams that have just absolutely underachieved. That's the next segment. We'll look at the disappointments of 2011. We'll be right back with that video.